I was standing there, right in the middle of what used to be Cordelia Blackstone's perfect front yard. And now, it was submerged in floodwaters, waist deep, if you can believe it. She was wading through it, in a $2,000 business suit, screaming at Channel 9 News, while her brand-new, white Tesla Model S was just drifting past her mailbox like the world's most expensive bathtub toy. The smell? Oh, it hit you like a slap. Diesel fuel, rotting grass, raw sewage, all mixed together in the worst possible way. I just stood there, watching, because it was almost poetic. And then, the kicker, that soggy red paper she was clutching. It was the final notice she'd filed against me. 50 grand due immediately, or I'd lose the property my family's owned since 1962. All because I wouldn't drain a natural spring pond that had been there for 60 years. That pond had been the reason my place had never flooded, not once. But Cordelia didn't care about history or the rules. She cared about one thing, money. And that spring-fed pond, it was standing in the way of her $1 million development project. What would you do if some Karen tried to steal your family land, your wife's final resting place, and then slapped you with a massive fine because of it? I'd love to hear your stories. Trust me, they'll probably make this one look like a warm-up. My name's Marcus Rodriguez, but everyone calls me Tank. I spent 25 years designing flood control systems with the Army Corps of Engineers, so I thought I'd seen it all. That was until Cordelia Blackstone came into my life. 2 years ago, I inherited my grandfather's property after Sarah, my wife, lost her battle with cancer. The land was beautiful, nestled in Pine Ridge Estates, Colorado. My grandfather, Miguel, built the cabin, the workshop, and most importantly, that pond. It wasn't just some decoration. It was a water management system that prevented flooding for the entire valley below. Sarah and I would sit by that pond every year on our anniversary. Wildflowers, a soft breeze, and the sound of water trickling over limestone. It was perfect. When she passed, I scattered her ashes there. That pond wasn't just a pond. It was home. And Cordelia Blackstone? She didn't care. One morning, I saw her white Tesla rolling up my gravel driveway, tires crunching like she owned the place, stilettos clacking on rocks. Seriously, stilettos on gravel. Who does that? The woman had this platinum blonde bob, the kind of sharp corporate look that made it clear she had power. I could already tell this wasn't going to end well. She stepped out, holding a leather portfolio like it contained the secrets of the universe. The perfume, jasmine, sickly sweet, and way too strong, hit me before she even spoke. "Mr. Rodriguez," she said with that smile that only people who think they own the world can pull off. "We have a serious problem with your unauthorized water hoarding." Water hoarding. I looked at her, trying to stay calm. My fingers tightened around my coffee mug, feeling the worn spot where my wedding ring used to sit. "Excuse me." She opened that portfolio like she was about to hand me a subpoena. "This pond violates water management regulations implemented 6 months ago. I'm afraid it needs to go." And there it was. The first shot in a battle I had no idea I'd just stepped into. Now, the pond had been there since 1962, long before her precious HOA regulations. My grandfather had built it with his own hands, a system designed to keep the entire valley safe from flooding. But Cordelia? She didn't care about history. She cared about her development plans. "Look," I said, holding my ground. "My grandfather built that pond before your regulations even existed. It's not going anywhere." But Cordelia wasn't done. She slammed down a stack of papers. "You have 30 days to remove this installation." And that's when I realized it wasn't just about the pond. No, she wanted something bigger. See, Cordelia wasn't some concerned neighbor trying to protect the community. She was a predator, a real estate mogul who'd bought up distressed properties, flipped them, and made millions. My 3 acres? They were worth a hell of a lot more to her than they were to me. 2 weeks later, she was back with backup. Derek Blackstone, her husband's lackey, had arrived, young, nervous, and holding a clipboard like he was about to make some life-altering decision. "I'm here to inspect your water usage," he said, fumbling through laminated credentials. I had no problem with government inspectors, but this kid? He looked like he had just wandered out of his mom's basement. "Certified by who exactly?" I asked, already smelling something fishy. Derek stammered. "The Colorado Water Management Bureau." But something didn't sit right. So I pulled out my phone, ready to make a quick call. "Mind if I verify that?" You could see the color drain from his face. "That's really not necessary." I wasn't letting this slide. I'd dealt with real inspectors in my career, and this kid didn't pass the smell test. What followed was 60 minutes of comedy. Derek taking photos like he was at a crime scene, measuring water depth with a yardstick, scribbling notes that barely made sense. It was a joke. And then Cordelia hit me with a $5,000 fine for unauthorized water theft from my own pond, the same spring-fed pond my grandfather had protected for 6 decades. I laughed, really laughed. The next morning, my neighbor Frank dropped by, looking like he'd seen a ghost. He handed me the latest issue of the Pine Ridge Gazette, where I was now being painted as a villain. Local resident hoards water while neighbors face drought conditions. The smear campaign had begun, but that's when I realized they weren't just attacking me. They were targeting the whole community. I spent the next few days doing some digging. I went down to the courthouse, and after 3 hours of legal archaeology, I found what I was looking for: my grandfather's original deed. It included perpetual spring water rights dating all the way back to 1962. And that was the moment I knew I was going to win this. I called Jake Thornfield, my old Army Corps buddy turned lawyer. "Perpetual water rights are legal kryptonite," he said when I told him about the discovery. "They can't touch you." But Jake's deeper research revealed something even more disturbing. Bradley Blackstone, Cordelia's husband, had ties to Mountain Vista Development LLC, a shell company that had been systematically buying up property by bullying homeowners with fabricated violations. The next few weeks were a blur. Legal battles, public meetings, and a growing community of neighbors who'd had enough. And that's when I realized something even bigger. Cordelia and Bradley weren't just after me. They were after the entire community. They've been using these tactics to force longtime residents out and replace them with wealthy newcomers. But here's the thing about being a combat engineer. You learn to think 3 moves ahead. And by the time Cordelia made her final move, I was already positioning my pieces for the win. You want to know what happened next? Well, I can tell you this. Sometimes you have to give the enemy exactly what they want to show them the consequences of their actions. Fast forward to a town hall meeting. I stood up, ready to give my final statement. And when I clicked the first slide of my presentation, a photo of my drained pond, everything changed. The crowd went silent. I told them everything. I showed them the evidence, the manipulated photos, the bribed inspectors. And then I dropped the bombshell. My pond wasn't just protecting my land, it was protecting the entire community. And as the storm rolled in that night, it was clear Cordelia's plan had failed. The floodwaters surged, just like I'd predicted. And while her expensive Tesla floated down the street like a luxury bathtub toy, I stood there, watching the justice unfold. In the end, Cordelia and her husband Bradley were arrested on federal charges. Their luxury condo plans crumbled. The community came together, neighbors helping neighbors. And as for me, well, my pond became a symbol of what happens when you fight for what's right. A year later, it was cleaner than ever, surrounded by walking trails and interpretive signs about water conservation. So what's your HOA nightmare? Let me know in the comments below. And if this story inspired you to stand up for what's yours, hit that subscribe button. Because sometimes the good guys really do win.